A dying old woman gave the nurse the key to a strange box, and when he opened it, he froze. Alina was a charming woman who, thanks to her way of being, had always found an allied hand to help her in any circumstance. That was why when she found herself alone and abandoned by everyone in that hospital many years later, she could not understand the reasons that had brought her there. And she decided to review her whole existence, trying to find the moment that had caused her to suffer from absolute loneliness as an old woman. But she could not find any explanation. Since she was a child, she had been the most cordial and attentive to all people. There wasn't a favor she had left undone, nor did she shirk any opportunity to show the nobility her heart harbored. She had grown up in the midst of a family that had taught her the importance of always being willing to give her all for others. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story. As she grew up, she realized that her family was exceptional, and in reality, most people were not like them. On the contrary, many harbored long-standing grudges in their hearts and were indifferent to the misfortunes of others. Therefore, when the time came for her to form her own family, she knew that she could not allow nobility to die with her and that she must instill it in her children. She devoted as much time as possible to her children. Alina and her husband had a small family business which, although it didn't allow her to indulge in luxuries, it did give them enough to ensure their table never lacked bread. And although customers often took advantage of their nobility and they would lose money because of them, they had enough to live comfortably. Alina was so busy doing her best to make her family look like her parents' family that she never took the time to get to know either her husband or her children for whom they really were, and not what she wanted them to be. When she noticed that the children were growing up with a personality of their own that was very different from what she tried to instill in them, she became frustrated. As time went by, she began to think she had failed as a mother. There were so many things she didn't like about her children that she didn't value the good things in them and little by little pushed them away. But Alina never understood that her loneliness was due to herself. And there she was, in a hospital bed with a nurse as her only companion. Her husband had died several years ago and her children had moved to other countries. When she became ill, she didn't want to be told. She had lived so frustrated for so many years that she had convinced herself that her children did not love her, when she had simply never known how to keep them close by constantly pressuring them to be something they were not. Every time Alina had led some charitable cause, she had forced her children to be social and be around people they didn't want to be around. And in reality, there were many hours when she neglected them because she was looking out for others. And when the children approached her and tried to explain that they didn't want to be there, she was furious. She never knew how to balance her job as a mother with serving others. But as she pondered, those ideas didn't simply come to her mind. She disowned the children she'd been given without realizing that it had been her own works that had put her in that situation. A few days later, while her nurse was refreshing her bed, Alina confessed to him that she felt she had very little time left to live. In reality, she felt no fear at the thought of dying. She had already lived for many years. But when her nurse asked her if there was anything she wanted to do, Alina made a decision she had been putting off for several years. It turned out that her children hadn't taken all her belongings with them when they left. In fact, they had left most of her things behind and had started from scratch far from home. Alina had already gotten rid of almost everything: clothes, books, toys, childhood. But there was one thing she had not been able to let go of. Her children kept a heavy metal box in her room, and she had never known what they had kept there. When they left, she had found the key to the lock, but she had never dared to open it and did not understand why she was afraid of what she might find, and had hidden the keys also from her husband, who died without knowing what was inside. But now that Alina felt that death was near and that she had a helping hand at the end of her days, her nurse, she decided that she could not leave this world without knowing what her children had kept in that box. So she handed the key to the nurse and asked him to go home, open the box, and return there to tell her what was in it. It was time to know. The nurse, even though the old woman's request was outside his responsibilities, agreed because it pained him that someone like Alina was alone and he wanted to help her. But he never imagined what he would find inside that box, and for a long time he wished he'd never opened it. Her children had kept her diaries there and several newspaper clippings of news stories related to the mayor who had helped Alina promote her community causes. But she didn't understand the reason for keeping those newspapers until she read the papers and then cried in terror. There, the children recounted how the man had physically and psychologically abused them while their mother was distracted by others. The mayor had taken advantage of every crowd to get close to the children and always had the approval of the mother, who never noticed the frightened looks on her children's faces every time she decided to support a new cause and ask him for help. Now the nurse did not know what to do. It was too painful information for an old woman who could no longer do anything to change what she'd done, and her children were too far away to arrive in time to forgive her. But when he returned to the hospital, he understood that Alina was a woman too lucid to believe a lie, and he told her everything. And then he didn't know what to say. The pain of the truth pierced his heart as if 1,000 pins had been stuck in it. She realized that she'd been selfish all her life, and that in trying to make her children equal to her because she believed she was morally superior to others, she had damaged them forever, and she regretted it so much that she asked for her children to be called. But they did not manage to find her alive. Alina died that same afternoon after writing them a long and heartfelt letter in which she asked for forgiveness for everything, and her children, who had loved her in spite of everything, were able to forgive her to finally cleanse their hearts of so much pain and continue with their lives, trying to be good parents and looking after their children at every moment, so that they would never have to live the same life as they did. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and consider sharing it with someone who may find it interesting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.